laying in bed, I noticed upon my endless scooching and breathing, trying to get comfortable, I noticed when I flexed my right foot, we talked of tibiali, you and I, these last episodes, because I've been watching my body, I've been watching the aches and the pains, and last night, my mind went to my right tibialis because I hadn't thought about it in a while. But I knew that it had ached earlier that day at a bit of a vulnerable point in the run. So I thought, let's check in. And I flexed it a little bit. And for the first time, in conscious recall, how many times in unconscious recall have I done this very thing? But this time consciously, where I flexed ever so slightly, pointing, flexing my thumb toe, flexing my ankle so as to pull the pad of my foot toward my head with just that one little bunch of muscles. That is not a snake. And when I did that, I felt for sure 100% the end point of the same series of muscles right under my kneecap. Muscles and tendons and everything. I felt the connection. Completely felt the connection. Right now there's so much going on. I'm thinking about it and I'm doing it right now. The same motion, but I'm in motion also. And I'm also talking. I can't feel just where that string ends. I can feel where it begins in the big toe. And the other toes curl up. My pad comes up. But I can't feel that little spot above the shin beneath the kneecap that I was feeling yesterday so profoundly in the darkness and the silence. All right, we got a guy behind us. I'm going to use my ears. Yeah, they're close enough, but the road is pretty gentle. So I'm just going to do this. Running on slopes. Yeah, that's a lot of flowers. That's nice. Look at him. Very pretty. Got some horses over there. You probably can't see them. We have officially entered drip knuckle territory. Salt Pan Lane is next. Oh boy. It's clear behind us. Those eucalyptus trees, man. Eucalyptus trees. Oh, big ass dead crow. Yeah. Be well through the transition, brother. Oh, that is a far different smell. We talked of the word cloying recently. That bird had the other way that you can go in carrion, and it was a greasy, meat-like rancidity. It was a almost tart, acrid smell of death. Different than the entombing, numbing, sweet ness of the cloying smell. Different ones. I wonder what the chemical difference is there. because a lot of things rot sweet. What is that? Is that bacteria metabolizing things into sugar? Do things naturally degrade into chemicals whose shapes lock into my nostrils and tell me that I'm inhaling sugar? Or tasting sugar? I don't know. And the weird bitterness and the zing, the astringent zing, that's a part of the cloying spectrum. Okay. Gotta pay attention on the rock bed. I guess I have to make a choice now, don't I? No trespassing. I thought there was a park this way. Maybe it's this way. I'll tell you what. I'll follow this to the bend. And if I don't have satisfaction, then we are far beyond the place where turning back is optimal. Where turning back is a little bit more effort than it was going to be if I would have just turned around at the half an hour mark, like I was considering. I was wondering how long it might take to get to this place. These places. This road, I'm not sure if I've been on it. I'm not sure if I've ever been on this road. That's cool. Think about it. A half an hour run to the house and I'm already pushing the edge of the world. Oh no. I know that fence. This is where I was yesterday. Ooh. Cool. I have been on this road. We are not pushing the edge of the world, but we did yesterday. Well, there was a sign that said park. Like there was some kind of a park out here. I didn't see anything like that yesterday. I don't see anything like that today. It could be miles out. It could be the sign was meant the way the freeway signs often are politely preemptive to the directions that they give. It's like, oh yeah, this road bumfuck nowhere. Exit only lane, quarter mile. And the exit lane itself is a quarter mile. So you have that kind of warning. You know, yeah, it sure is just where I thought that it was when I saw that fence. Yeah, and there's the bend. Somewhere down that road might be a park, I don't know. But we are at 41 minutes, 22 seconds. I am now turning back because this run has been a success. It is now time to return to home, clean up, and hit the road in a mobile vehicle. Good God. 3 big MFing runs. Okay. Focus. It's there, you know. It's a bandwidth issue. Oh, it's like eating. You stretch out your stomach a little bit, but it's not just going to happen. You got to put stuff in there. You got to swallow some air or eat some dinner, and the vessel will grow. I grew up thinking that your stomach stretched and shrank, and then somebody told me, might have been an authority figure, stomachs don't actually do that. And then recently, the word is, no, demonstrably, so say the Mythbusters, so say the food theorists, that stomachs do stretch. But I can do you one better than that, can't I? Because stomachs can do what stomachs are going to do in different animals. I'm not qualified to commentate on the nature of stomachs, but I can tell you from experience, which is in my wheelhouse, people do stretch when tested. Hell, we'll stretch anyway, just for the hell of it sometimes. Sometimes it's a mixture of both. Like right now, at the edge of my bandwidth, where I'm watching my capacities go up. Like I'm only just now getting signals from the right hip. I thought that I would be riding. I was watching myself. One of the main things I was thinking of that might hold me back and turn me around earlier was the notion of right hip hurts, and I've already really asked a lot of it these last 4 or 5 days. So every single step is not only a victory, but an invitation to watch and see if I'm right at the point in the bandwidth where I'm not stretching my capacities. Instead, I'm causing more damage than I'm causing growth. So watching for that, Breathing in a measured way for a second here. Okay. No cloud of miasma this time. Next time, who knows? I kind of gotta wonder. Seems like way more cars are going against my direction. So I'll just stick to this side of the road for now. Let my ears tell me what's behind me. And thank my eyeballs for telling me what's in front of me from so far away that I can make a single little adjustment and easily write the order of the day, which is stretch the limits a little bit, ride, work, and rest. And I guess I'll eat at some point too. Again, I got cashews and pretzels ready to go, and sardines. Well, and I've got more burgers, don't I? And bread, and some greens, and some sauerkraut. And I still haven't broken into the eggs today. Ooh, I don't know you. Beautiful little whatever that was. Plant. Okay, we got one behind us. So I'm gonna pivot again. Yeah. Knees are good, ankles are good. On the 4th round of the Wim Hof practice this morning, as long as we're talking about feeling, using our senses, witnessing, as long as we're doing that, from whatever part of the road or off the road, I want to add the detail that on that 4th round, I went in breath 29, breath 30, breath 31. I went a couple more if I remember correctly. And then I really hit the gas on that last breath. Really stretched my lungs out. Compressed my air chamber. Whooshed it out. And right before the the psychoactive wonderland gave way to the mundane resting position. Right as the lights dimmed and I came back to behind my eyelids after what was a light show, you know, as you do, a few seconds of craziness. Well, in that space, right at the end, I noticed how much I hadn't been noticing. And there was all this sensation. My mind was like it was like an addled dog being told to fetch 5 things at the same time. You see that moment when he's just splinched in 5 directions in the air. His forelegs are going this way, his hind legs are going that way, his mouth is craned up. They're all trying to catch different things at the same time. That was me, chasing all these feelings that were coming to me. So, yeah, well, clearly, I didn't need to chase them, did I? They were available. Oh. They were completely available. Okay. Running back the way we came. But the thing that I noticed wasn't just that. It was that after a second, I got the dog under control. And we went for 1 frisbee at a time. What is on my left knee? Nothing. We're okay. Felt a little matted for a second. Whew. I noticed one feeling, and I fixated on it. I was like, I'm not letting this one go. I'm just gonna be available. All the awareness of the other things is trickling away. It's too much. But not this. And what was that feeling? That feeling was the sense of tremendous, relaxed opening of my right palm. Homework. Assume the Spider-Man pose, like you're about to shoot a web. And just play around with those muscles that hold your fingers that way. Play around with that. Tense them up, relax them, open the palm, close the palm. Tell me if eventually you don't come to find that there's a sense in that conglomeration of tension and movement, in that moment, in that process. Tell me if you can't find a sense that tendons are stretching in the center of your hand. Even though you're closing your hand and such in the Spider-Man position, try flexing your wrist a little bit too. Very spidey. Very spidey. Tell me if you don't eventually come to a place where you're like, whoa, feels like I'm stretching something or opening the center of my hand. Because I felt that. Only my hand wasn't doing anything. I've often felt that. Which... whew, is a hell of a feeling. I don't know what to do with that. The woo-woo side says, oh, your chonkers are activating. Your minor hand chakras. Because we've got the 7, don't we? But then, it seems, depending on who you ask, that there are subordinate chakras, similar types of structures in your light body or your systemic self, at your palms and in the feet. I don't see why not. I don't see why we can't have a chakra on every joint. I ain't got a problem with that. Anywhere that I have a lot of nerves and I can feel something and there's the ability to move under conscious control. Hell yeah. But not too worried about it. It was a feeling. It was just a feeling. It was familiar. I've been there 1,000 times. Sometimes I talked about it. Sometimes I journaled about it. I've had other different kinds of feelings as well. I can tell you at least one right now off the top of my head. I have often felt after long periods of meditation, or very lucky ones when it happened quickly, a sort of a chattering of the limbs, a feeling of motion without motion, particularly in my arms and legs. Sometimes I would focus on just one finger and just make as if to move that finger, open and close it, let's say, but not to actually do it, but get as close to beginning motion as possible. And eventually you get this chattering feeling. You get this feeling of my consciousness banging around within the walls of my skin, within the walls of my flesh, right up to the point of becoming action potentials that would lead to physical motion. And you play with that. Sometimes you feel the faintest motion, you're like, that was actual motion. Come on now. We're just trying to rock and roll within the sheaths of skin, not actually moving. If you do that for long enough, as I have sometimes, and sometimes you come to a interesting place where you realize, oh yeah, I guess I can kind of move without moving. There's a relaxation in that. There's a nuance to your awareness of your motor faculties, your sensory faculties that comes with that. It's very calming and generous. Do with that what you will. Woo or no woo. So those are a couple of examples of moments when a barking ass on a podcast occasionally has stumbled backwards by the butt flaps into profound feeling, which is something that I have more and more the sense of will be required to cross the thresholds I'm trying to cross, such as running for ages and ages, such as healing things like a right hip, to the degree that maybe there's no grind, no wear, no tear, wham bam, thank you ma'am. Make you some breakfast and pour you some coffee. That's all that I get out of the right hip. That is possible. It's not my current reality. As much as I habitually and in practice consciously unsubscribe from basic human agreements, and I've already removed countless I can'ts from the docket, from the schedule of possible tasks and charted adventures for the future. Jumping thistles. That was a rusty one. But no pelvic floor pain. My God. I'm going to go on about that endlessly. You just watch. But anyway, perhaps we've unsubscribed from a lot of toxic agreements from the human stream in the ocean of reality, from the human tides. But I have not unsubscribed so far back that I'm willing to entertain the notion that I can just learn how to heal my hip right now instantly forever. There's more to learn if I look at that possibility and say, I'm sure in some world somewhere, a couple universes down the line, a couple of time hops, a couple of realities away in the multiverse, sure, why not? But here and now, it appears I've got a lesson to learn. And sometimes the lesson is, ow, this kind of feels amazing, but it also kind of sucks. That's the story of my right hip right now. And yet I run anyway. And that discipline, maybe that's what I'm learning. I don't know. There's utility in it. And as long as there is, it's not attractive to me to go the route that I find to be so deeply entrenched in the mires of the woo, which is I can heal myself immediately from everything 100% and it's all roses and ponies. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's your world, awesome. My world contains a relationship. That relationship is self at large to right hip. It's a conversation. We've got to have this dance and make mistakes and pratfalls and get into fights and have early morning talks and surprise ourselves with our generosity toward each other. It's like a relationship with anything. As said, I'm in an unprecedented territory with how few relationships I'm in. Friendships, family ships, loverships. Very, very few. So, much like a tibialis raise in the middle of the night, in the blackness and the silence and the half-sleepy dreaminess, might be a place where I can find a new sense of a thing that was too quiet to be heard during the day, at least with proficiency. The toning down of the relationship cacophonies, the late night parties, the loud rooms and the chattering, the endless toasting and cheers, the caretakers, like the folks who manically wash dishes at parties because they have to be doing something, to the children running around and scurrying, breaking vases and shit, to the animals freaking out and jumping around, or receiving pets and being heckin' good chonkers. All that has died down to embers. And down in here, by the nightlight, at the end of the night, riding on out, where we're chattering our limbs and experimenting, making faces in the textures of the ceiling with our imaginations, lapsing into long periods of thoughtlessness. Rest. In this place, we're uniquely positioned to develop the relationships, the texture and the richness of relationships, abridging parts of ourselves and other parts of ourselves. You know how I can say that another way and talk around it? Since it's not easy to talk about this stuff, I'm not great with the language yet. But if I were to take another crack at it, the thing that I just said a slightly different way. I've recently come into the knowledge that there is a such thing as a vagal nerve. Are you aware of the vagal nerve? The vagal nerve is named after the word vagrant, apparently, because it wanders. Apparently vagrants wander. I've never looked that word up. Maybe I'll report back to you when I have had it at the dictionary. Vagrant. The vagal nerve, V-A-G-A-L, is one that appears to wander between, connect to, and abridge and keep in appraisal various different systems operating in sequence and in rhythms together so as to coordinate their activity. Well, your pancreas and your kidney is talking to each other. Your heart and your stomach. I don't know exactly if it's all the organs, some of the organs. I've come to nicknaming the vagal nerve the worm nerve because the best way that I can think about it so far, again, we are early in our education on this nerve. I am, anyway. The worm nerve, because it's primitive, it's pretty central, like it's deep in there, man. You don't need limbs to work with it. It's mostly your trunk. It's mostly the column of your body. I don't know how far into your arms and legs the vagal nerve has any kind of dominion, but coordinating, operating with different organs. So I've been told that's one function of the vagal nerve. Another one is it's kind of a barometer. You can tell, apparently, you can sometimes tell if a human being has incurred great damage, great trauma damage in their life from the early life experiences, from other experiences that might have been heinous that came later, whatever. PTSD. People who have sustained extensive damage across the system, and it's in there, rooted. That shows up in what is called low vagal nerve tone. I didn't realize you could really tone a nerve, but it kind of makes sense that you could. What is a nerve? It's a bunch of, the way that I understand it, a nerve is a bunch of beads of fat on a string. The string has a center, a nucleus, and then there's the string part, you know. And along the string part are these beads of fat, and electricity arcs from one bead to the next, and the beads accelerate the electricity's capacity to flow and move, and that does things. More tone. I don't know what that physically looks like. I think of muscle tone. I think of texture and definition. So perhaps the texture, perhaps the beads of fat come up more clearly on the string at a glance under the microscope or whatever. Perhaps the string itself, you know the difference. Perhaps it's kind of like the difference between paracord and a shoelace. Shoelaces